Well, in the name of God, in the previous session, we talked about the importance of language description, and we talked about three important approaches to language description in ESP and what we mean by language description. In the second part, we're going to deal with the concept of genre and genre analysis as one of the key terms and one of the key research areas in the field of in the let's say a realm of English for specific purposes. If you remember, when we talked about the roots of ESP, we said one of the roots is the paradigm shift in linguistics. So when it comes to language description, the very first point is that this paradigm shift was particularly by changing the focus from form to meaning, as we said before. One of the aspects that was the most developed and the most advanced form or approach in analyzing the linguistic features of ESP texts was genre analysis. The way the text is viewed in genre analysis and the way genre is defined and the way genre is explained, it's very important to understand what it is and how it can contribute to the formation of ESP courses and the development and design of the syllabus for ESP courses. Before we talk about the concept of genre, to understand where it comes and what we mean by genre, we need to explain the paradigm shift that happened in linguistics. As we said, we moved from Chomskyan linguistics to Hallidayan linguistics. And what was it called? It was called systemic functional linguistics. Systemic functional linguistics is a paradigm, we can say, in linguistics in which the focus is on meaning more than form. We can say form is at the service of presenting the meaning in systemic functional linguistics, and in short, it is called SFL. In systemic functional linguistics, we have three metafunctions. By metafunctions, we mean the roles that language can play and the way language can be influenced by different factors. What are these three metafunctions? Textual, interpersonal, and experiential. These are the technical terms which we need to know, okay? So, what do we mean by textual metafunction? Whenever we deal with a text and it is related to a subject area and it has a particular purpose to convey a particular message, we are looking at a textual metafunction. Technically speaking, it is called field. Field is different from what we call field as the major or discipline, okay? Field here refers to the textual metafunction of language in which actually we focus on the subject matter. For example, when we have English for the students of chemistry, English for the students of physics, English for the students of philosophy, these different disciplines are called, let's say, field. When we teach a group of doctors some expressions to use with their patients, the topic, the subject matter is interaction between the patient and the doctor. That is related to the textual metafunction. When we teach a group of taxi drivers at an international airport how to talk to the passengers, we provide them with some expressions, some fixed expressions, in order to interact successfully with the passengers when they want to pay for the trip, when they want to talk, to ask the address, and things like this. We focus on the textual metafunction. So by textual metafunction, we mean the subject matter, the topic, and the themes that are included in the interaction. On the other hand, we have the second metafunction, which is called interpersonal, and technically speaking, the term that we use for that is tenor. Interpersonal metafunction is concerned with the relationship between the sender of the message and the receiver of the message. It can be the speaker and listener, it can be the writer and the reader. So when I say something to a student, and when I want to say the same thing to the colleague that I have in that school, or when I want to say the same thing to a parent, so the type of language, the type of choices that I make in order to convey the message would be different. Consider a teacher of biology who wants to explain a biological fact to a group of students who are in high school. Of course, the type of explanation would be totally different if the same teacher is asked to talk about that biological fact to a group of colleagues, to a group of instructors at university. If that colleague, if that teacher is asked to give a lecture for the university students, of course, the type of language would become more technical, more formal. The type of language a father uses to talk to his daughters and sons would be totally different from the type of language he uses to talk to a colleague. So, interpersonal metafunction refers to the way the status and power relationship that exists among the interlocutors can influence the choice of lexicogrammatical features. And the third metafunction is experiential. Experiential refers to the mode of presentation. Mode is the technical term for that, which is concerned with the channel of communication, whether it is oral, whether it is written, whether it is pictorial sometimes, whether it is conveyed through body language. So experiential metafunction refers to the channel of communication. When we want to write something, mostly we use more formal language compared to the time we want to talk about something. So we can say written form is mostly more formal than the oral form. You may use more pictures when you want to explain a scientific fact to a group of children compared to the time in which you want to explain the same scientific fact to a group of scholars in your field of study. When you want to explain your teaching method to the parents of your students, the type of language would be totally different compared to a time you want to write an article about the method of teaching that you use in your class and you want to submit it to a journal. So these are three metafunctions in systemic functional linguistics, which was put forth by Halliday. And these three can influence the type of interaction and the type of communication among different people when it comes to discourse communities. Consider the discourse community of physics actually experts, discourse community of chemistry experts, discourse community of taxi drivers. The topics are of different nature. Even the interpersonal metafunction, I mean, we have different people in a community. The novice members, like BA students, the semi-novice or semi-established people, like the MA students and PhD students, and the number of researchers and scholars and university instructors who are considered as the established member of the discourse community. The way they interact with each other would be totally different. For example, when you want to send a message, an email to your classmate, the type of text you use in order to send that email would be totally different from the time you want to send the same email with the same topic to your instructor. And experiential is, of course, the way, different discourse communities try to convey their messages and interact with people in their community. They sometimes write formal letters, sometimes they talk, sometimes they have, informal talk, informal sessions, or formal meetings. So these three act as the most important aspects of language description when it comes to ESB, because the concept of being specific makes it very delicate and very sensitive. According to this, and based on the summary of what we said about the three metafunctions and the technical terms that we use for them, we can say in 1960s and 1970s, because of the dominance of Chomsky in linguistics, we had register analysis and discourse analysis. We explained these two in the previous session, and we said that register and discourse are at the surface level to some extent. Of course, in discourse analysis, it tried to move toward more much deeper levels. But in 1980s and 1990s, following the presentation of systemic functional linguistics, we have the concept of genre analysis. What is genre? Genre looks at text and discourse as a social action. It means that the text is not, let's say, in a vacuum. The text happens in context, and that context means all three meta functions are involved. So communicative events we have, and by communicative event we mean whenever some interlocutors want to convey some messages, whenever there is a sender of a message and the receiver of the message. So communicative events presented as a staged activity. By staged activity, it means that the way information is put in order, the way different pieces of information are presented from the sender to the receiver would be influenced by the meta functions, following the conventions. What are those conventions? Those conventions are the rules, the lexicogrammatical features that are appropriate based on the three meta functions. When we have an informal context, the communicative event, for example, is an invitation. So what would you say to invite somebody? First, you actually express your happiness, with the interaction with that person, and then you talk about the event that you want to invite that person to, and then you tell the time, the date, and the place. And then you wish that person good luck and peace and something like this. So this is the stage activity. It means that we have some stages and we put different pieces of information in a particular order, which makes it appropriate for that context. What are the conventions here? I am a close friend of, for example, John. So when I talk to John, I use informal type of language, and there is no need to say dear Master somebody, okay, Master X. So I say dear John. So I call my friend by first name. This is the convention, but you cannot call, for example, your instructor by first name. You cannot call your colleague by first name if that colleague is not close. So genre analysis is a tool that can improve the discourse community members' literacy. By literacy here, we mean familiarity with those conventions, with those norms, in order to act well and appropriately in the discourse community. How? By familiarizing them with the norms and conventions. So if you do not know what the norms of writing an article is, actually what the norms of writing an article are, so you may submit several articles, but they are rejected. In order to get accepted, in order to actually publish an article, you need to be familiar with the conventions. This is why we say genre analysis improves the discourse community members' literacy. So we can say genre analysis and familiarity with genre and the conventions can establish a borderline between the novice members of the discourse community and established members. It means that the more you become familiar with the conventions and norms, the more you become familiar with the genres, with the discourse features of the texts that are actually exchanged in the discourse community, the more established you become. This is why a BA student is considered as a novice member, and as the student moves on and goes to higher education courses, the student is expected to improve his or her literacy regarding the way different scientific findings are communicated in the discourse community, the way different text types are written, the way presentation in the conferences actually are given, in order to become an established member. The very first genre analysis practice was done by Swales, and it is called Carr's model for introduction, for the introduction section of the article. I don't know whether you have seen academic research articles or not, mostly they start with the title, then with the names and affiliation of the authors. Then we have an abstract. Following the abstract, we have the keywords. Then we have introduction section, review of literature, methodology, results and discussion, conclusion, references, and appendices. So, this model is just for the introduction section of the article, okay? And it is called CARS model, which is the acronym for creating a research space. Zweig said, when you want to write an introduction, if you want to write it appropriately and well, and if you want your introduction to be accepted in the academic discourse community, you need to consider 3 moves. These moves are those stages. So technically speaking, in genre analysis, the stages of presenting information are called move. And the subparts of moves are called steps. So I will actually explain this in more details. So move 1 is called establishing a territory. Move 2 is establishing a niche. And move 3 is occupying a niche. What does it mean? It means that when you want to write an introduction for your research article or for your MA thesis or your PhD dissertation, you need to consider these 3 moves. Look, move 1, establishing a territory. What does it mean? It means that you need to follow these steps one by one. The order is important. The content is important. So here the focus is more on meaning. This is why in systemic functional linguistics we claim that the focus is more on meaning, and text is considered as a social action which is interacted, which is conveyed to a group of receivers. And those receivers are important because they are of different degrees of expertise, of different status compared to the sender of the message. So when we say establishing a territory, we mean if you want to write an introduction, first you should claim centrality. What does it mean? It means that you should talk about the key terms and the key points in your research. Then you need to make topic generalization. It means that you provide definition for the key terms and make the actually themes understandable and comprehensible to your audience. To establish actually a territory means to present what you are talking about, what the topic of your research is, but not by referring to the purpose, by referring to the concepts and variables that are involved. And then you review items of previous research. In the very first part, okay, it means that you tell your audience what works have been done, what types of research have been conducted. Then you actually go to the second move, which is called establishing a niche. Niche means gap. So here you counterclaim. It means that you discuss the results of previous research. You talk about the shortcomings and positive points and strength of those studies that have been conducted. Then you try to highlight and indicate the gap that exists that has not been considered in previous research. So it means that by reviewing the literature, by talking about the previous studies and their shortcomings, you come to a conclusion that what I want to do is a new area of research. Then you raise the question. It means that you talk about the points you want to actually do research on, and you explain how your work is going to contribute to the existing research. So you explain how your work actually can complement the existing studies. Then in occupying the niche, you outline the purpose. Now you talk about the purpose of your study. You talk about the aim and goals you follow and you want to reach at the end of conducting a piece of research. Then you announce present research. It means that you elaborate on the research questions and research hypothesis, if you remember from the research course from previous semester. Then you announce principal findings. It means that you talk about the findings that you have and the way indicating the way your findings can help other researchers or material developers or other teachers or students in the field. And finally, you indicate the research article structure, what sections are going to be presented following the introduction. Mostly this is a conventional type of paragraph in which it is written following this session, this section. The literature is going to be reviewed, and the method of the research is explained. The results and discussion are presented, and concluding remarks are given. So this is the way the research article structure is presented. So from now on, download some articles for yourself. Okay, mostly the date should be after 2022 in order to read articles related to our field, ELT, English language teaching. And then you try to analyze different sections, different parts of the introduction section of the article by referring to this model, the actually Swede's model, Carr's model, to see how the introduction is presented, how the introduction is actually presented to the audience following these moves and steps. So, in conclusion, we can say genre analysis provides us with a borderline between novice and established members. It addresses the textual and contextual norms of discourse communities by focusing on three meta functions that we explained. And we may have cross-disciplinary or cross-cultural variations. It means that you may analyze the structure of introduction section in articles in the field of chemistry and in articles in the field of philosophy to see how these two disciplines actually vary when the scholars, researchers want to present the introduction in the academic research articles. Or cross-cultural variation, for example, you may find articles written by, Italian authors, Iraqi authors, by, let's say, American authors, and written by Iranian authors, and compare the way they present introduction sections of their academic articles when they publish an article to see whether there exist some cross-cultural differences. For example, do they omit some moves or some steps when they write an introduction? What sections, what moves, or what steps are more important to which group of the authors and researchers in the field? So that was all about genre analysis. We will talk more about the genre analysis within the following sessions, because genre analysis, as I said, is one of the most important let's say, areas of research and areas of thought and areas of practice. It can set the scene for other areas like course design, like syllabus design, like material development and material evaluation. So we will talk about genre analysis in more details, and we will talk about different sections of an academic article and how we can analyze it based on different models in more details in the following sessions.